What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in to yet another episode here of Walking Manifestator. Whether you are listening to this on podcast or you're watching us on YouTube, thank you so much for being here and for choosing to invest in the best asset you have, which is yourself. Now, in today's conversation, I want to talk about something that I think most of us, unless you're not a human, have experienced, which is limiting beliefs. And limiting beliefs, I think, are actually a superpower that we have not learned how to reprogram to be used in such way. So with that being said, at the end of today's podcast, I want to give you 3 tips that you can start incorporating into your life, and also a great book that you can look into to start understanding a little bit more of your psyche is a great book called Psycho-Cybernetics that is really going to help you better understand some of the principles we're going to cover today. Now, the first thing I really want to dive deep into was something that I recently actually heard, and this was by Matt Dawson. And he said that there is this belief geared around how sometimes we think that we're not strong enough, right? We're not powerful enough. We're not blank enough. And in reality, there is a sense of relief by having this subconscious belief, because the moment that we dissociate from that belief and we tap into the reality, which is actually that we are stronger than we even think we are, that is the moment that we are stepping aside from this victim mentality, and we're really stepping into the ownership of our own beliefs, our own insecurities, and our own reality. So something that he really mentioned there is that most of us are actually not afraid of the whole concept behind I'm not strong enough. You're actually more afraid of the fact that you are stronger than you let on to believe, simply because with greater power will come greater responsibility. And I thought that was something very interesting, because it's true. If you think about it, most of us are in the day and age in which you're able to go and find anything you need on the internet. I mean, that's just the world that we live in. Even if you're not actively in the best place financially, you could go to a cafe and get the hotspot, right? You can do a bunch of things to tap into this world. And one of the great things about that is that you're able to learn a lot of information from different avenues. One of the things that I personally think is happening as well in our psyche is the more that we are growing in this consciousness, the easier it is to also get consumed by things that we identify as limiting beliefs. We have in our brain associated with the reason I can't make this happen is because of blank. Maybe you're a single mom and you're saying, well, I just don't have time to go and make more money. Maybe you're a single dad, you're saying the same exact thing. Maybe you don't have any kids, but you're telling yourself, well, I'm just too busy with work and I don't have enough time to go to the gym, or whatever the case might be. We all have something subconsciously that we are telling ourselves, whether you realize it or not, that is holding you in a level of mindset that is smaller than the true potential that you have. And I'm going to give you a quick reference to something that I recently found earlier about myself. I had this limiting belief, and it's a silly one, but I think it's important to catch these things so that you're able to identify them in yourself. But at one point, somebody told me that me wearing my hair up was not as nice as me wearing my hair down. And I really didn't see that as something that was like a limiting belief within me, right? I didn't sit there and say, oh, poor me. Like, I didn't care, right? In my mind, right? I brushed it off and I was like, whatever, I'm still going to wear my hair like this. But I didn't catch that it was a limiting belief until recently. I went to get some work done for some of my signs on my real estate business. And the gentleman that was there, he's the owner. He's been there for a while. And he gave me a compliment on my hair. And that day, my hair was up. And I kid you not, when I tell you that when he gave me this compliment, I received it in a text message. I was already driving and I got emotional. I got emotional because I was like, wow, I just got a compliment for something that internally I had as a limiting belief that I didn't even identify as a limiting belief until somebody gave me a compliment about something that aligned with what I believed, because I genuinely like when my hair is up. I like it. It feels more fearless, or whatever you want to call it. And when he gave me that validation, I was like, wow, this is the power behind limiting beliefs that we we have that are keeping us in this mindset that subconsciously are there. And until you make the time to really dive deep into them and understand why they're there in the first place, you will forever be in this victim mentality. So the first thing I really want to talk about is that these limiting beliefs are actually your superpower, because you don't realize that the only reason you're identifying with that as a limiting belief is truly because somebody else posed their own perspective, their own opinion, or they showed you, right, series of actions that was not possible. Let's use an example such as, let's talk about developing resilience. If I am somebody that told you at one point in time, hey, you know what, you're not able to, become financially stable because, in this rat race of life, oh gosh, I mean, if you make $10,000, a month, that's like unbelievable. Like nobody ever does that, right? If I say this to you because I've never allowed for that to be my reality, and you choose to accept that, you just took on my limiting belief. The limiting belief that I am giving to you as a part of my reality, as a part of the experience that I chose to experience. And I think it's very important to note this difference, because most of your beliefs, most of your limiting beliefs at that, are not even yours to begin with. They're somebody else's problem, but they passed them down to you because subconsciously they were doing in their mind what was best for you, sharing information that they thought was going to protect you. And this is not to knock on other people, because this is all about taking accountability of our actions, of our behavior. And I just think it's important to understand that where these beliefs come from do not symbolize who you need to become. So a lot of the times when we talk about resilience is understanding that just because you have a perspective does not mean it has to be my perspective. And that's very, very crucial in understanding these limiting beliefs, to use them as fuel, because as we tap into the second part here, it's really understanding that these opportunities are going to fuel you for your growth. And think about it. If I tell you, you know what, you're a bad speaker, like every time you go and talk on stage, you're putting people to sleep and it's just not good. Well, you have two ways to react to that. The first one is you feel sorry about yourself and you let that take a toll on your life, and you never book another opportunity to talk in front of people because I just made you feel like absolutely just bad, right? Let's not use the word, but that is what happens. Now, in a situation in which you decide to adopt that as a learning experience, now it's up to you to say, you know what, I value that feedback. Thank you. And internally say, I don't accept that feedback. I am not going to identify with that feedback as part of my overall identity. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start researching more about how to communicate, how to have a better speaking conversation, how to be more, pronounce words better, and how to keep people excited. So that opportunity that one person in one reality took to heart and allowed for that person to take away all the opportunities that they had in the future that they could tap into, that one person allowed that to become their reality. Meanwhile, the other person chose to use that as an experience to really learn and to grow. Another really important part here is redefining these as a goal. And for me personally, when I talk about my limiting beliefs, I've shared with you guys in the past that one of my limiting beliefs was really that people did not like me. And this has been something from childhood, right? Like I have carried this limiting belief, and now as an adult, it takes time to start working through a lot of this emotional baggage that we all have. But something very interesting has happened is the more comfortable that I continue to get in becoming this version of me and unapologetically worrying about what other people are going to think about me, because people are always going to criticize one thing or another. People are always going to have something to talk about. But we also said the last podcast that those people usually, they just feel bad about themselves, and that's why they want to make other people feel bad. So when I see these moments in my life where I have the opportunity to say, okay, am I going to continue to allow this belief to hold me back? Or am I going to use it as an opportunity for me to say, you know what? It's just another moment in which I can choose to either stay in this energetic bubble that I am keeping nobody, not even the good energies, to be able to meet me and who I am, or am I going to be open and vulnerable and allow my true self to shine, and the people that are energetically going to match my energy and me match their energy, we're going to get along. This is something very important when it comes to becoming comfortable with who you are, and this is part of the reason why it's also important to understand understand where these beliefs are coming from, because the most important that connects everything together is when you are operating from a lower frequency, from a lack frequency, from a frequency that is not your best and truest highest self. What is happening is that you are, and we talked about this also on our last episode, people pleasing. You're looking for other people to give you the validation that you're not giving to yourself. So these limiting beliefs are simply mirrors. You see, when I encounter a person that maybe doesn't have the energy that I am looking to interact with that particular day, one of the things that I always ask myself is, how is this person showing up in my life as an opportunity for me to react as the new version of myself? And let me say that again. How is this person allowing me to gain this opportunity to react as the new person that I am becoming? Because when we encounter somebody that has a bad attitude and they give you attitude and you decide to give energy to that person in a negative way, it is simply depleting your energy. Hence, they are getting actually the reaction of the universe that you have said specifically you were no longer. You have said to the universe, I am a better person. I am meditating. I've been doing my mantras and I am a new person, and watch out, world. But then the moment that the universe faces you with that old reality to see if you've really changed, you go back and you react exactly the same way. So really going in from this perspective of understanding these limiting beliefs are simply opportunities for us to become a better version of ourselves. If there is something, and this is something that has helped me, if there is something you're identifying as a limiting belief, one thing you want to realize is that this limiting belief that is presenting itself is actually the superpower that you are desperately connected to, that you are meant to truly tap into, to be able to come across as something that you're able to now share with other people. And this is what I'm referring to. If you are somebody that's experiencing this limiting belief, and maybe it's geared around, you know what, I'm just not financially stable enough, and things are always happening that are, out of my control, and everything is just going wrong. Right? Well, there is an interesting perspective to that. There's people that absolutely don't think about that. Like, just think about that for a second. There's people that are complacent. There's people that are unapologetically happy where they're at, and it's not in the best vibration. Let's just say that. Not coming from a place of judgment, just a place of observation, right? Like, they're physically, mentally, spiritually not in alignment with somebody that maybe is investing in themselves to grow, to become better. So when you think about it from that perspective, you are already a step ahead of anybody else that might not even worry or think about wanting to become a better version. They don't even have that limiting belief because they don't even care to become a better version of themselves. But yet you're having that limiting belief because you care enough to try and actually put a magnifying glass over it and say, oh, that really bothers me. But now you have the choice to decide whether you're going to work on it or you're going to let it fall through the cracks. And something that you can really start doing to help you with this is the self-reflection. The self-reflection journaling is something that personally is going to help you better understand what are those thoughts that you're having in your brain. Something interesting, that I want to read it from my notes, from the book, Psycho-Cybernetics. Really, really great book. Highly recommend it. But he talks about failure and he sets them up in basically abbreviations for you to understand what failure really means. The F is frustration. The A is aggressiveness. The I is insecurity. The L is loneliness. The U is uncertainty. The R is resentment. And the E is emptiness. So when you think about failure, these are the things that you're associating with them. But in reality, it's really tapping into your subconscious to say, this is actually a new opportunity for me to become and tap into a better version of myself. And this is why when I see comments of you guys that are following us on Instagram or following us on our journey as you've been commenting or sending us emails, I just want to say that you're taking the time to invest in the number one thing that you have as an investment, which is yourself. And when you start realizing that all these little things are actually your superpower, this is where you become a great word that I recently heard by Vishen Lakiani. If you don't know who he is, he's the founder of Mindbelly. Highly recommend checking out some of his meditations, the Silva method, really, really great. But he says the word unfuckwithable. And he's like, if you have a problem with potty mouths, it's just a reason. It's just something, a limiting belief inside of you that somebody told you at one point that saying bad words was a bad thing. And now you associate it with that. So I thought it was funny because he talks a lot about how in these unfuckwithable states, you become the person that you look up to, and you're not looking for somebody else to look up for you. Look out for you. Look up for you. And I think that this is very important because when you realize it, at the end of the day, the number one person that we're here to become a better version of is yourself. And I will say something as well as a caveat to this. It's important to find your tribe. It truly is. Because in a world in which there's a lot of people that have a different perspective about personal development and maybe they're complacent and whatever you want to call it, it's important for you to find people that are also sharing the same goal and the same mindset. And I think that it's important for us to understand and create those safe spaces, which is the reason why I personally created our new community on School. If you guys want to check that out, link is down below. But it's just an opportunity for more like-minded individuals to connect, because we do need that support system. No matter how much you want to sit here and say you're independent, you don't need anybody. Hey, I've been there, but I also know the power, and this is from like a psychological perspective, like studies have actually shown that we are humans, that we were raised in the times in which we needed a community. And the moment that you are shunned out from a community is the moment that most of us will encounter depression. Most of us will encounter moments in which we feel our best because there's nobody else to share anything with. So highly recommend that you start incorporating these techniques into your life. Last two I want to talk to you about is visualizing, and the last one is practice affirmations. So visualizing is something that you want to start really tapping into. Who is that version of yourself showing up as? And we've talked about this in the past. If you have not seen about the video on visualize to materialize, highly recommend you check that out. But it's really about tapping into this truer and higher version of yourself. I know it's important for you to work internally on everything you have going on, but I will say one thing. The moment I started working out and the moment I started feeling stronger, this was an external thing, right? I started feeling better internally as well. And this is the reason why it's so important to choose the right people around you, because some people, they just want to see other people in failure. They often say that misery loves company. And this is why it's important for you to be around the people that are truly looking to grow and that are truly rooting for you. And when it comes to affirmations, it's really taking a moment to set your intention for the day. What is it that my word, my intention, my energy that I want to bring around others, what is that intention that I want to give out? Super important when it comes to your ending of your day and your beginning of your day. How are you starting and how are you ending? Because the way that you're ending your day is how you're setting up the tone for your new day. Are you going to sleep watching something that is not in your best light? Are you going to sleep texting somebody in a negative way? Are you going to sleep mad? Are you going to sleep feeling bad? Or are you taking the time to just practice gratitude and be in the best state of mind so in the next morning you can be at your optimal best self? With that being said, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. To all of you that continue to stick around, thank you so much. With that, I will talk to you guys on the next one.